and welcome to our closing session. Still I Rise. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. It's been a long day, but hopefully you have enjoyed all of the sessions and gotten a lot out of them. If you can, just in the chat box, go ahead and share, one to three words about what today has been for you and kind of your experience of the conference. We'd love to have your feedback. We will have a formal survey that will be going out, but definitely share with us in the chat what your experience has been like today. I'm coming to our closing session. I do have a few announcements before we get started. One, you all know we were partnering with Liberated Development to offer a laptop. So we have to announce the lucky winner of the laptop, and that is Lauren Hollier. So Lauren Hollier, a brand new laptop courtesy of Liberated Development, will be coming your way. So check your DMs for that information. All right. And I also just want to give a shout out to our platinum sponsors, Project Heal and Eating Recovery Center, and Pathlight Mood and Anxiety Center. So thank you all so much for your support. All right. Loving what I'm seeing in the chat box. Love, liberation, and life, reaffirming, reviving, and rejuvenating. Awesome, awesome. So hopefully this last session as well will continue to be uplifting. So I'm going to welcome our panelists to the stage for our final closing session. We have an awesome panel lineup for you all. So one of the things we wanted to do was have speakers who could speak to a lot of the different sessions that are going on today. So we have, there were sessions on entrepreneurship, definitely talked about mental health and healing. And so we have speakers, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves in a moment, but from all different walks of life, a variety of different experiences to kind of reflect on some of the common themes throughout the conference, and provide us with a few nuggets of wisdom as we go on about our day. I'm so excited about having all of them here. So we'll start off and just allow them to introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Linda. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Catherine Duverné. I'm a wellness programming facilitator, and I like to say I'm a conscious connector of community healing. And so I, share and lead meditation and journaling workshops, especially for Black folks. And I like to connect folks to their feelings seen and unseen. And so I have worked with Heal House, Ethos Club, Photographiska, NYC, and there's many more organizations and companies that I offer my services to. And last note, I am Haitian American.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Linda. All right, Jenna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenna, pronouns she, her. I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, cutie accent. I am the owner of Shakonia Candles, a registered and certified sustainable and non-toxic candle and home fragrance company. We focus on supporting the community, mental health awareness, and of course, embedding sustainability and DEI into it. I'm also a DEI consultant and communications consultant. Fun fact, my daughter and I, she at the time was 5, we wrote a book called A Girl and Her Curls to help inspire and empower other children to love themselves, curls included. I'm so happy to be here with you today for the closing session. And what a perfect theme to wrap it up, right? Still I Rise.
Yes, absolutely. All right, turn it over to you, Shak.
Hello, my name is Shak Taylor, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be a part of this panel discussion. Just to piggyback off of our last two queens, I'm Jamaican American, so let's just it's lit right there. And I am a pastor. I'm also a traveling speaker, and also just a mentor to young men in our communities, in our urban communities. And I am a proud husband and father of 5 beautiful daughters.
All right, thanks, Shak. All right, Seth. I think
there it is. Uh-oh, can y'all hear me?
yes.
Woo! What's going on, everybody? My name is Seth, Seth the Speaker. To those that know me, those that don't, hello, salutations. I am a retired vet, but also a certified professional speaker, and I connect with individuals on accountability and a life realization. I'm also an author of the book, The Black Collar Mindset, The Art of Strategic Thinking, and which helps individuals to unravel their own gifts. And I love the fact that I'm here with you all.
All right, so excited to dive in and talk with you all today. So, Linda, I'm gonna start with you. So when I was looking at your website, I noticed there's a quote that says, healing is not pastime work, it's lifetime work that transcends generations. And we were talking a little bit about healing in our opening session and how, sometimes, you can't shortcut it, right? You have to really put in the work. So tell us why healing is not something we can do just when we have the time, but why it's critical to engage in, and that piece about transcending generations. Share with us your thoughts about that.
Yes. And so from that quote, I like to mention and I like to emphasize that the healing work I do is intergenerational. Oftentimes, we hear quotes like, the power is in the youth and the youth is the future. And that is true. But I feel as though that when we talk about community healing, there's not necessarily one demographic or one age group in that community to realize healing for and liberation for the community. So I like to think of intergenerational healing as what are the contributions that we all can do in being aware of the different capacities that we have. So understanding that, for older folks, healing and contributing to liberation may look different as you age, and just depending on where you're at in your life. So I like to, sit with what does capacity look for all of us when we talk about intergenerational healing. And as far as pastime work, healing is very intentional. It's not something that is, you wake up and it's like something where you don't really think about. You have to really sit with, and that requires a level of emotional awareness, intelligence that we often talk about, and especially certain buzzwords that we are hearing in these discourse, and as far as emotional intelligence, awareness, shadow work, all of these different buzzwords and different capacities that we need to be more than aware and understand the language. And I like to, and that's kind of stemming from my studies in college, where at first, growing up as a Haitian American, I didn't necessarily have the language to, explain certain things of how I was feeling. But once I was able to have the language and then really sit with how I was feeling in my body and connecting back to the body, mind, and spirit, and also just connecting to God in a different way outside of the home, outside of school, it made me see that healing is not pastime work. Everything about it is intentional.
Yeah, I love that. And, we think about trauma. We know trauma is intergenerational, but healing is also intergenerational. So we can pass down, trauma gets passed down, healing can get passed down as well. Just being really intentional, as you're saying about the healing work. It can't just be an afterthought, but really an active part of our daily lives that we're continuing to engage in day after day. Thanks for that. All right, Shak, I'm going to turn it over to you. So I know on a recent podcast, you talked about emotional suppression in men. And, Linda was just talking about kind of, being aware and in tune with emotion. And, oftentimes with a lot of men, unfortunately, they suffer in silence. They don't talk about what they're going on. There's this sort of toxic masculinity that happens. And you talked about some of the messages that you received were toxic when you were younger. So can you talk about that a little bit and what ideas you have to kind of start to change that and change that narrative in the male community?
Yeah, so I think it starts with relationships. Let me just backtrack a little bit. I think that one of the reasons why the stigma of emotional suppression and the hiding of our emotions exist is because of something that we were lacking in our childhood. I believe Linda spoke about it a little bit as far as like just that generational trauma and just, getting things passed down. but while everyone here is a great speaker, and while I do believe that this is an amazing conference, I think that this is a conference that should prompt us to take action. And one of the actions that we have to take, especially as men, is that we have to insert and assert our lives into the lives of other young men. One of the problems that I had, and I hear a lot of men say this, and I hear a lot of young men say this, is that I just want to be not like my dad, or I want to be the opposite of my father. And so for me, I grew up without my dad. And the thing that helped me is saying, you know what, forget about that narrative of not being like him. Let me find who I am. Let me search for my own personality and embrace my own journey and embrace my own story. And so I think that one of the ways that we help that is by encouraging young men to be who they are called to be. But we have, and this is no disrespect to anybody, we have enough speakers, we have enough conferences, and we have enough resources. I do think that we don't have enough spaces for relationship when it comes to our young men. And so I think that that is very important.
That's critical. Yeah, we were talking earlier about the importance of community, right? And so many of our young Black males need that sense of community, particularly if, their father is not in the home or they're feeling disconnected from their father or father figure, needing other people. We talk about that village oftentimes, right, in the Black community. So needing that village to really step in and support is critical. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go to Jenna and Seth. So our two of you have really sort of charted your own path and become entrepreneurs, very successful now. And we have a lot of people online as well who, also sort of have these thoughts and aspirations of becoming entrepreneurs. Oftentimes there's a lot of barriers that get in the way. Oftentimes it's that fear of the unknown of what's going to happen on the other side. You take that big leap. So what advice do you have for budding entrepreneurs who are listening in today?
After you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So, I've had an awesome career path over the past 15 plus years in diversity, equity, inclusion, and communications. But let me tell you something. You cannot ignore that calling. You can try to as much as you want, but it's not going to work. If it's meant for you, that knock on your heart will keep coming, and it's going to get louder and louder. And you may not even sleep at night because you keep thinking about your dreams and ideas that's literally welling inside of you and building within you. Because those gifts and dreams are truly meant for you, right? So I have 3 nuggets. I'm just going to take a brief moment to talk about with my own 3 nuggets of advice based on my lived experiences. 1, you have to trust yourself. And here's the thing. We always trust our gifts in the hands of another company, in the hands of another person, but we need to trust our gifts to build our own empire. And, as a believer of God, I know he doesn't make mistakes. So our passions and our gifts, they energize us, they feed us, they fuel our souls. And we need to trust ourselves enough to know that with all our heart, we have what it takes. My second nugget is to jump. Now, this is a hard one for many of us. Trust me. I just made the jump on August 15th of this year. So I know it's real raw. And let me tell you, it ain't always pretty. It's not always pretty at all. Yes, there's going to be losses, disappointments, risks, struggles, all of that. We've, as a family, have had to make some financial adjustments recently. We've had to pivot. But guess what? Nothing from nothing is nothing. So if you don't jump, you get nothing. You don't get to see what you could have been, what you could have done. So my advice is to jump and think of those failures and possible risk as a springboard. My daughter is in gymnastics, so springboard is in my head. Think about the failures and risk and all of those things as a springboard, knowing that if you land on them, there's always a way to bounce back up from them. And my third advice is to be strategic and consistent. The word equivalent to that these days is grit. There are going to be times where you will get a lot of no's, and more no's than yeses, right? And that's okay. You have to keep pushing forward. The path to your dreams is not always linear. Dr. Cunningham and I talked about that in the last time we connected. So you have to be tenacious and resilient. You have to persevere, work hard, work smart, never give up on you. One of my Trinbagonian best friends always says, keep throwing that net, something must catch. And basically what that means is if you keep at it, you are going to hook that deal, that $10,000 grant, that amazing opportunity. You just have to keep at it. And before I pass it to you, Seth, my one lesson that I've learned is that you are your own advocate. Matter of fact, the best one. No one knows you like you. No one knows your dreams like you, and certainly no one knows your gifts the way you know it. So we have to stop waiting to get approval from others and buy-in from everyone. You already know. Seth?
Mic is mute. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Cool. So I'll be try to be quick with this. So a couple of things that I would say is the first thing is analyze your boat, right? You are the captain of your ship, right on, and not everybody in your boat is rowing. That means that some people in your boat may have other jobs. Okay, there may be someone in your boat, hopefully your captain, if you will, can help you to navigate as a mentor. However, in order for you to utilize that individual as being your mentor, you need to be what? Mentor ready. So that's one thing. The other thing is you may have individuals in your back seat, right? Trying to help you out. But keep this in mind. You have the steering wheel right on, so they could be backseat drivers. And if you're listening to the wrong people, you just might go the wrong way. So analyze that. The other thing is you may have a nice size boat, meaning a nice size circle, but there may be some individuals that silently drilling holes in your boat right now. So if that's happening and you aren't focused on your dreams and your desires, you are there trying to get water outside of your boat, you can be misguided and then you will hit an iceberg. So I would say analyze that. The next thing is that I will suggest is that you disconnect from individuals that can be spiritual vampires. Okay, protect your neck. What I mean by that is you may have individuals in your face, in your bed, and in your family that do not understand your dream. It is yours, so mind your business. Then there's individuals that's so afraid of your dream because they can't see it for themselves, they would throw negative juju on you and suck the life out of your dream. So be cognizant of those energy vampires and protect your neck, protect your business, and go for the bag. And that bag is more than just money. That bag is your dreams, your desires, your goals, and everything that your talent, skills, and abilities God gives for you to level up. Last thing I would say, practice grace. Not just with other people, but with yourself. Sometimes individuals say, oh man, I should have did this. Hold on. So what? You're still going to grow. You're still learning. So understand and practice gratitude that you are learning now versus just being an old fool. Because I know a lot of old individuals that still don't know nothing yet because they're still doing the same things that they did when they were younger. So once you surround yourself with the right people that's in your boat, you can stay focused, utilize individuals that can help you move in the right directions, protect your neck from those energy vampires, and practice grace and just keep growing and loving yourself.
Love that. Protect your neck from the energy vampires. And something you were saying, Seth, too, I was, kind of thinking about a lot of times we hear people saying, I'm chasing the bag, getting the bag, going after the bag, right? And they're chasing the money and losing focus of really what their ultimate purpose and goal is. And when you chase the money, you lose sight of, really what you're here to do. That's right. And I also want to say, heavy on the gratitude. That's so important too. Being grateful for the experiences that we have and giving ourselves that compassion that we so often extend to other people. We have to give it to ourselves, give ourselves that grace to make mistakes and to learn from those as we go. All right. So, but as we're talking about this, I think all of you have kind of forged your own path, right, in terms of the work that you're doing now. So how would you say, how did you sort of become aligned with your purpose and kind of figuring out how you're supposed to be doing, what you're doing? A lot of people say, I think, Jenna, you mentioned this earlier, a lot of people feel like, I have a purpose. I'm not really quite sure what it is yet. How did you all find, your road that you're on now? How did you kind of get where you are in that alignment? Anybody can jump in.
Okay. Yep. Yep. I got something, just a quick acronym, WAIT. The acronym WAIT. It stands for Why Am I Talking? What we do is we focus and keep talking about the things we want to do, but we're not really silencing ourselves and listening. Hey, maybe you need to go and do this. Try doing that and shutting your mouth, right? So after I stop talking and start listening to the individuals that were pouring into me, not taking away from me, then I start to be more in line with my definiteness of purpose.
That's a good one, Seth. I think for me, it's that listening to that inner child, right? I think as children, we have these dreams. I always remember I'm going to have the J's boutique and the J's clothing line and the this and that and the other, right? We know that it's in us. And so I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I hushed it because, Linda and I, we talked about this. We have the Caribbean parents, okay? The ones who would say, get a good education and a good job and climb up that ladder. And that's their way of thinking. And nothing against them because they were in survival mode, right? In terms of oppression, thinking and all of these things that they've experienced. So they were in survival mode, but that's what was taught to us as we talk about intergenerational, right? And so for me, not necessarily knowing fully in my mind that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but in my heart, it was very clear, and in my soul. And so listening to your point, Seth, was very important to me, listening to my inner child and really knowing, okay, this is a pure gift that was given to me. These are skills and talents that I have. And not because I worked in corporate, that doesn't mean that I should not go the route of an entrepreneur, right? Not because, because sometimes people look at all of the education that they have, all the bachelors, the masters, all the degrees as a thermometer, right? But that can be embedded and applied to your full-time entrepreneurship journey. And so it's not wasted. I think sometimes people think when you move from the corporate world into the business world, having your own small business, it may sometimes be a waste of education. And that's not the case. You're embedding everything that you've learned, grown, your experience, all your skills and gifts and talent. And matter of fact, you can make it into creating impact in so many ways, as we talked about, not necessarily monetary impact. We want that, yes. We all have to survive in this world. That's our bread and butter. But at the same time, the impact that you're having in the community, the impact that you're having on yourself. So I do think for me, that's how I align to my purpose, listening to my inner child.
I would say for me was having a moment in, excuse me, in undergrad where I was able to create my own concentration, and it was called Self-Care, Mindfulness, and Ancestral Healing for Haiti's Future. And so giving myself back that power to, articulate, right, and gain the language of what do I want to express. And like I said earlier, having those emotions and feelings growing up of like, what is this? What does it look and feel like to be raised by Haitians and who had their journey, who are operating out of a survival mode? And what does it mean for me to live the life that I want and choose and desire? And so with that, kind of just allowed me to be in a space to journal, right? We're talking about tools to share it with folks. And so lately I've been, writing down what values are important for me. When we talk about, having organizations, people talk about their brand values, but what is your personal value? And so one of my personal values is integrity. And one thing about integrity, it just kind of just sweeps away all the, glitter and glamour. And so when I think about like who I want to partner with and who I want to align with what I'm trying to bring to the Black community, the word integrity comes to mind. And so that allows me to really have a clear, grounded, and be able to discern, right? Also praying for discernment as a way for me to just stay in my lane and be aligned with what God wants for me. And so that's something, as I journal and continue to sit with and pray and meditate, is something that is making me able to like forge my own path and stay in it.
For me, it was as simple as be who you wish you had. And I've always wanted to just be who I never had and who I wish I had. In my community, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. In my community, all I ever saw were the guys outside with the Benzes, the guys outside with the Ferraris, and they never worked. They never worked. So in my head, I thought to myself, well, if they never worked and they look successful, then I might need to try that. And so I started hanging around the wrong crowd, and I started doing things that I wasn't supposed to do. That's neither here nor there. But I do think that as a people, we have to learn how to embrace our story. Once you begin to embrace your story, you will find purpose out of the pain that you've been through. Have you ever realized that most of the people that you are called to serve are people that went through what you went through? And that's because like your pain really has purpose to it. And so for me, I had to stop despising my past and despising what I went through and despising everything that happened, and I had to start confronting it, not just to heal, but also so that my purpose would be revealed to me. And so my purpose was revealed to me through the pain that I felt. And I said, I never want another young man, another young woman, another person in our community to feel like they are without a mentor. And in 2022, we have a lot of men with a lot of podcasts that are talking about nothing, that need to just get in these streets and start talking to some kids, and start talking to some young ladies, and start talking into some schools, and really be who these kids need us to be. So that's how I found my purpose.
Amen to that. Yes, your pain has purpose to it. Oftentimes when we experience things, particularly we know in the Black communities, like people don't want to talk about what they're going through, right? We talked earlier about how you still, folks still want to, be cute and, wear the cute outfit and, get the hair done. But inside you are broken, you're hurting, you might feel ashamed. And, we're covering all of the things that covering up all the things that were going on with us internally by what we put on externally, and not really taking that time to really tune in to what's going on with us personally, individually. But if we were to recognize that that pain that we're feeling is really power, waiting within us, having that opportunity to find our purpose, I think that could definitely transform the way that we think about so many of our experiences. I want to come back to you, Linda, because I know you have talked, on your website, you talk about sort of trusting and understanding how we know what we know, right? Just sort of trusting yourselves and trusting that knowledge, that intuition that kind of comes to us, and how we have that power to sort of just return to our divine selves. So can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Yes. And so in the context of like what you saw on my website was from a framework from my rationale in undergrad. And it's something that I just, have implemented in my lifestyle in terms of embodied knowledge. And so I like to use the example as far as, when we focus on, for example, chronic illness, we, always focus on like, okay, what that is and the negativity and just the physical manifestation of it. But, in this Western society, we don't talk about what was the road that, got us there. And that may look like, intergenerational journey. But I like to sit and ask myself, what is the emotional stress behind it? What is the energetics behind it? Right. And so when I like journal and meditate, I often start off with how are you feeling and where is it landing in the body? Oftentimes when we're going throughout this, life journey, we are not taking pauses. We're not taking deep breaths. And so even in my meditation practice, when I lead folks, I ask them on the next breath, take up more space. Because another thing, we always say, take up space, take up space. But are we taking up space internally with our breath? Because that's the life force. That's what's keeping us going. And so when I say embodied knowledge, what we have, what God gave us is inside. We just have to really be in tune to what is showing up in our body, because we are fed a narrative that, what we're experiencing is out of our control. And most of it can be, but when we start to like shift the narrative of like, oh, actually, what is this trying to tell me? What is this dis-ease in my body, the discomfort trying to tell me? And that's where the intergenerational wisdom shows up. That's where the embodied knowledge shows up, because, you're having a headache. Maybe that headache is telling you a bit more And it's just showing you the wisdom that your body has to let you know, like alerting you, like something is off. But where's your emotional, where's your mental, and where's your spiritual like energies at right now? And so just kind of having that moment with yourself as you pray, you meditate, and you journal about, you know, sitting with the body and how does that feel and what is it naturally coming up for you?
Yeah, I see in the chat, someone commented about, you said, take up more space with your breath. And I've never thought about it in that context. You know, I've thought about take up space, like, you know, I'm walking down the street and somebody else is coming towards me, you know, and they don't like they want to move. I'm like, no, you know, we claiming our space here today. Right. But not thinking about how are we taking up space in our breath. You know, that just really, really sat with me because, you know, again, we go throughout our day and, you know, we don't think about breathing typically, right? We do it, it's natural. It happens, but taking up space with your breath and getting that in tune with your body. You know, when we do our little deep breathing, you know, we inhale, exhale, but really focusing on taking up space, and noticing what that feels like in your body, I think is, really, really critical. Thank you for that. Yes, so many good nuggets. And if you have any questions as we go, for our panelists, please do put those in the chat box, as we continue the conversation. So one of the things, and anybody can jump in here. We know the theme of our conference, you know, is heal and liberate. Right? We've talked a lot about healing, and liberation throughout all of the sessions. But for each of you, you know, I think for all of us, there are things that keep us bound, you know, from being truly free and truly feeling that sense of liberation. You know, it could be things that are happening at work and our relationships with our family. You know, there's always things that are happening, in our lives. And so, you know, for one, just kind of from your own individual perspectives, what do you think are things that are, barriers to liberation for the Black community? And then what suggestions do you have to kind of help, begin that process of liberation?
I think I have one, if you guys don't mind. Uh, just something very small, and I think that we don't talk about it enough, is we take things so personal, right? So I ask you to think about it. Quit taking it personal. For example, the brother said something about individuals that have, you know, podcasts. What they need to do is this and this and this. If I wasn't on a certain level of awareness, I can take that personal because I too have a podcast. I do things outside of that. However, I think our responsibility as individuals is to understand who we are, right? Not to take on everything that people are throwing at you. You can put your hands down. You don't have to catch everything. Everything that's thrown is not meant for you. And so understand the difference. So I believe if we can stop taking things so personal because we know who we are as individuals, we can stay laser focused to our definiteness of purpose and realize that there are some people that are with us but they're not a part of us, right? So sometimes individuals come into our life as a helpmate, and some are like a weapon of mass distraction as well. I'll land there.
I will say that for me, um, just me personally being vulnerable, as a Black man, sometimes it's easy to take on the hero role and to continue to just do, and never take any moment or a day to just be. And so, what I started implementing just in my week, again, I'm a husband and a father of 5. And so I started to feel like if I took time for myself, then I was being selfish. And so what I had to do was I had to learn how to take off my cape and actually just go watch a movie, right? I had to learn how to take off my cape and go hang out with my friends and, you know, drink a beer and watch the game. So just really being in a space where I don't have to be anybody, where I don't have a title, where I don't have a role, where I don't have a responsibility, but my responsibility is to care for myself. I think that's one of the hurdles that we have, is that we carry the cape everywhere we go at all times. And so, you know, that's something that I think that if we were to really be able to embrace the fact that we need time to just be, I think that we would definitely see a lot of progress and growth there.
So for me, I think, some of the things that bond folks is vulnerability. You don't want to leave that job because there's a possibility of that leaving you financially vulnerable. You don't want to leave that relationship because there's a possibility of you not finding love again. And this is in your mind, right? Even the vulnerability in seeking mental health support because of stigmas within cultures and communities. And we know that, right? And all that has been projected on us, thinking about the Black strong woman stigma. I think, we are vulnerable because our backs, from past and history, our backs have been used to being bare. And I think we need to clothe ourselves in self-love. I think we need to clothe ourselves in self-honesty, self-compassion. I saw somebody commenting earlier on self-compassion. And we're so very good at doing it for others, right? But when it comes to ourselves, as Shak said, especially, as parents, it's so hard. You feel that guilt. And I think we shouldn't feel guilty for giving ourselves some love and giving ourselves some grace and some time and compassion, and I think being honest with that. And as Seth mentioned before, we have a boat, right? And hopefully we have this boat of circle of friends, circle of sisters that we can rely on, circle of brothers. I think it's so important to lean on folks as that supportive community that you've built for yourself, family, friends, and what have you within your community.
For me, I think what is coming up is the rite of passage that says, oh, if I suffered years ago, then the upcoming generation or someone else that's coming up needs to suffer too. And I know that we need to let go of that narrative because it's detrimental. We often say, like, we want better for the future and for our children and et cetera, but sometimes that behavior and that pattern may show up just because, growing up, we may not have had this. And so there are, sometimes jealousy, and sometimes jealousy is not jealousy. It's, it's covering some other emotions and feelings that, when we see other folks experience a life that is, full of ease, full of joy, that we may feel ways. And I think so this, with prayer, with meditation, with, journaling, with therapy, will be able to just ground us in that we also deserve this, and we also can have access to a life that is also easier in a way that reflects, people that are experiencing this now.
Thanks to all of you for responding to that question. I saw one comment in the chat. So many good comments in the chat box. One says that, thinking about how our mindsets determine our movement. And when I think about liberation, you all may have seen, like on the internet, there's like these pictures of these three boys that are at different heights, and they're all like, there's a fence in front of them, and they're all trying to watch baseball game, right? And it's usually used when people are kind of describing equity and equality and the differences between those, right? So with equality, all the boys have the same kind of little stoop to stand on, even though different heights, there's still this fence. Some can see, don't need the stoop. Other one has a stoop, still can't see, right? And then equity, there's still the fence. Everybody has a proper stoop to stand on. And then there's like this other slide that was added that's supposed to represent liberation, where the fence is gone. And they don't need the stoops anymore. But to me, when I think about liberation, but if you think about that image, right, the boys are still outside of the baseball field. They're not playing on the field. They're not in the game. They're not in the stands. They don't have the popcorn, hanging out with their friends and family at the game, right? So when we think about true liberation, it's like, yeah, that barrier is gone, but we want to be fully included, taking up that space in our breath, in our space, externally and internally, and not being ashamed of who we are, being grounded in our cultural values that, have gotten us so far where we are today, being centered in our values and not allowing someone else to interpret what is meaningful for us, but making meaning on our own. And so, when I think about our mindsets determine our movement. Now, if you were standing in front of that fence, would you like be okay with just like, okay, the fence is gone now, I can see the game? Or would you be like, no, wait a minute, I need to be up in here, I need to be on the team, I need to have my friends here with me, right? Like, what is true liberation? I think we often get stuck in the narrative that society tells us about who we are and how we're supposed to show up. And so, true liberation is not being excuse me, not thinking about those narratives, right? Creating our own narrative, creating our own space for ourselves to experience joy and show up how we want to. So yeah, I also see a comment about being versus doing. All wonderful. So I know we are getting close on time. So I just want to wrap up so you all know the theme of this session was Still I Rise. I think about that poem by Maya Angelou. It really, I think, represents, like it illustrates like what true liberation is, right? Like despite what you say about me, despite what you throw at me, still I'm going to rise up. I'm going to rise above all of it. I know for me, I think one of the sort of stanzas that stick out to me the most that I love is, you may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I rise, right? We are going to continue to rise. So when you think about that poem, like what jumps out at you? What does it mean for you?
I can go first. So for me, the part that really stands out is I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. And that's because it helps me reflect on the realities of life and my response to them. Failures, are always inevitable. And my intersectionality, as a Black woman, a mom, an immigrant, it can certainly feel sometimes that you're swimming against the tide, right? But like Maya Angelou said, we bear in the tide. And I think about leaping and wide, as I talked about before, as your career path not necessarily having to be linear, or how you get to something, whether it's achieving your mental health or your physical health or emotional and wellness as a holistic wheel, doesn't necessarily have to take up one space. You can look at all these different areas that are so interconnected. And the welling and swelling to me is meaning of empowerment, right? As I continue to grow and succeed against all odds. So that really stood out to me.
Hey, I got one, Dana, and this stood out to me as well, and I like that. But the other one was, does my hauntingness offend you? Do you take it awful hard? Because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. The reason why that resonates with me, which I didn't state earlier, my father's from Ghana, right? And so I believe it's imperative that if you know and truly understand, it's more than just knowing, but truly understand where your bloodline comes from, right? It's more than just who you are. It's the shoulders of giants and gods that helped you to be where you are today. That when you go to a certain room, certain situation, even certain relationships, they're not always meant for you, and it's okay to walk away. Being completely transparent, I walked away from a 6-figure job just because it wasn't conducive to my emotional bandwidth, and it's okay. You get what I mean? So I think that if you know who you are, where you go, you're going to be there. And certain people may say, "Wait, you stupid. Why would you do?" Wait, hold on. See, I know what I'm doing may seem stupid to you, but your level of awareness is different than mine, and I need to be okay. But then I consider it makes you feel funny, don't it? You can't dig what I'm doing, right? Because it's not for you. So that's what sticks out to me.
I agree with that that stanza too, because I took that as, oftentimes when folks question your confidence or how you show up in your essence in a room, you have to stand legit 10 toes down of who you are and be true to who you are and not waver. Another stanza that stood out to me was the one that has that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. And I feel, in the perspective of a Black woman, and when we talk about Black feminism, reclaiming our bodies as Black women and reclaiming our pleasure. And so that just stood out to me because, we don't talk about that much in terms of the intersectionality between pleasure, and mental health. And so kind of just debunking certain stigmas and just, kind of awkwardness around that conversation to reclaim that and be in that. So yeah.
That was so good. I think what encourages me about the poem is you may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. And this poem to me, and I know everybody kind of talked about it. What really stands out to me is the theme of growth, the theme of continuous growing and continuous pursuing and the continuous progress. And when I think about growth, I think about like a seed and how I believe that every person is a seed. And a couple of things that a seed needs is a seed needs sunlight, a seed needs water, a seed even needs a planter. But the most important thing that a seed needs is dirt. And a lot of times we despise our dirt. Going back to what I said earlier, we despise our pain, we despise what we've been through. But our growth needs our dirt. Our success, our progress needs our dirt. And so, you know, that whole concept of our success not being this linear thing, which I think is like quote of the day, by the way, is very important and very powerful, because no matter how many times you fall, no matter how many times you hit a bump in the road, no matter how many times a mountain comes in your way, we still have the ability, because we are seeds, we still have the ability to go from dirt to full-blown trees. And so I was highly encouraged by this.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, this has been just a wonderful conversation. I always feel like it's not enough time. We could talk for another hour about just all these concepts. You all have dropped so many nuggets of wisdom to our attendees. Yes, go from dirt to full blown trees. That's going to be on Instagram repeat quote post today. It's been so much. I'm gonna have to watch it over myself so I can take some more notes on this conversation. It's been great. So want to just again thank all of our attendees who've been with us today. You still have an opportunity to visit additional vendors who you can shop with. Make sure you get the discount code from them. I'm sorry, the vendor code from them. They may also have a discount code when you go visit their sites. We also want to give another big shout out to our platinum sponsors, Project Heal and Eating Recovery Center and Pathlight Mood and Anxiety Center. And all of you for being here today. Panelists, you all have been amazing. All of our session presenters and speakers throughout the conference today. We just so appreciate you. Again, all of our volunteers, our vendors. Thank you all so much. And we look forward to seeing all of you next year at our 4th annual conference. All right. Have a good day. Thank you all so much.